Hey everybody, it's GoblinX, and welcome back to another Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth Early Access Draft. Thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for this promotional Early Access account, and without further ado, let's get into the draft. We've got a really good pack 1 here. Our rare glowing dwarf emissary is a great way to spit out some treasure tokens. Lots of historic spells in the set between artifacts and legendaries. There's even a few sagas, so glowing a 3-mana 3/3 that maybe spits out some treasure. Already good, and some extra flexibility to maybe force your opponent into some bad attacks with the sacrifice ability. So glowing's pretty cool. We also have 2 premium uncommons. Reprieve can put your opponent at a huge mana disadvantage. You can wait till like turn 4, play a 2-drop and hold up a reprieve, and then make their 4-mana card just bounce back to their hand and draw a card. It's almost like you're taking an extra turn in the right position. There's also Foray of Orcs, and I've been very impressed by the Orc Army Amass decks, so I'm actually going to take this uncommon over our rare glowing, because Foray of Orcs is really good at face value. It's going to be a 4-mana 0/0 that comes with 2+1/+1 counters, so 4 mana for a 2/2, and deal 2 damage to a creature an opponent controls. So that's already a good card. That's a fine card in draft and limited, but there's a lot of ways to amass orcs, and when you do that, they stack up with each other. So if I amass 2, I make a 0/0 army with 2 counters on it. And then if I also play the Torment of Gollum, it's going to get 2 more counters. It's going to be a 4/4. So it's not hard to have amassed a little bit before you play this card. Then this makes your army like a 4/4 or a 5/5 and kills pretty much anything on board. So I think Foray of Orcs, not Foray of Arcs, is actually just a sweet card. And I'm just going to pick one pack one that over glowing. And for pack 1, pick 2, I'm going to go for Gollum's Bite. I think this is a really good, nice, cheap removal spell. 1 mana for -2/2. Works as a combat trick super often as well. And it gives you a little bit of flexibility in the grave, being able to have the Ring Tempt You for 4 mana. And the Ring... Ooh, pack 1, pick 3 is second copy of Foray of Orcs. I'm just going to lock that in. I don't think we really need to look much at the rest of the pack. This thing's absurd, especially in duplicates. Anyways, Gollum's Bite, let's show off the Ring Tempts You mechanic, because this is still early access. You might not know yet. The Ring Tempts You is basically a way to make one of your creatures really hard to get blocked. You make one of your creatures legendary, and it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power than it. If you tempt the ring again, then your Ring Bearer gets both the first and the second ability. So now it also draws a card and discards a card when it attacks. If you tempt the ring a 3rd time, then it also makes your opponent sacrifice creatures that block it. So the tempting of the ring is a nice little value ability to tack on to an already good removal spell with Gollum's Bite. So we'll take another Foray of Orcs here, and looks like we're trying to be the aggressive red-black amass archetype. And I've done a lot of amassing. I've done blue-black, I've done blue-red, have not done black-red yet. So this could be a sweet way to go. We've got a Dunland Crebain now, which is a nice, cheap way to amass that Orc Army, get that thing set up. Turn 3 Crebain gives you a 2/2 Orc Army, so if you curve out with turn 3 Crebain, turn 4 Foray of Orcs, it's going to be very good, and that seems very possible, because we have 2 copies of Foray of Orcs, and now we have 2 copies of Dunland Crebain. This deck is already shaping up very nicely. Don't love anything in our pack 1, pick 6, but Flamesmith seems like a reasonable 2-mana creature. Not an excellent one since it trades off into 1/1s, but we'll probably have a little bit of a higher instant or sorcery count than normal, since some of our creatures are going to count as instants and sorceries, cards like the Foray of Orcs. So this seems fine. I don't really like this Fire of Orthonk or Relentless Rohirrim that much, so we'll go with the Flamesmith. And none of the off-color cards are really powerful enough to push me in their directions. The Black Breath is very good in certain matchups, but also useless in others. Not good against like green-black or green-red, but pretty good against red-white that spits out all these human tokens and stuff. Rally at the Hornburg, not unplayable in red-black. We prefer to amass an Orc Army, but we can also have some good sacrifice effects going on where having some expendable 1/1s is nice. It's also a way to get creatures that counts as a sorcery, so adds to our creature count and our instant and sorcery count for cards like Erebor Flamesmith, so I'll take the Rally over the Black Breath, but I'm not a super big fan of either of them. Rohirrim Lancer is pretty solid. 1-mana 1/1 Menace just gets in for damage a few times and makes sure you get a little bit of value when it dies. Tempting the Ring. Sam's Desperate Rescue is a fine value play. We'll take that. Again, there are some fine cards off color. I like Hithlane Knots a lot in blue-red. And Enraged Horn is fine, but nothing really strong enough to push me off color. Gimli's Axe is actually kind of cool on color, but I don't have many legendaries or many Tempting the Ring stuff going on. Spearmaster's a fine card. I think Torment of Golem's pretty great, though. Make your opponent discard the best card in their hand and amass 2. I like it. Like it a good amount, especially again with the double foray. Take another Rally over a 4-mana 4/4. It's going to be hard to fit this into our deck. Our 4-drop slot is already heavily contested because we have 3 really good 4-mana cards with Torment of Golem, double foray of Orcs. And we just don't have very much room for 4-mana cards. You got a lot of rooms for 1s and 2s, though. I'm just going to have all the Rally at the Hornburgs. If I open up the 4-mana 3/3 that gives your whole board +1/+0 whenever you play a human, I'm going to be the happiest drafter at this table. Because that card is so good with the rallies at the Hornburg. Another Golem's Bite is great. What is this? 3-mana flash, indestructible. Attach it to a legendary when you play it. Equip creatures indestructible. This is fine. This doesn't seem great in 1v1 draft. Bit slow, a bit mana intensive. So Ranger's Firebrand is great. Its sorcery speed has the big problem. But 2 to any target for 1 mana plus the Ring Tempts You is good. Another Golem's Bite seems phenomenal, though. It's going to kill pretty much anything that the Ranger's Firebrand would kill. Plus, it works as a combat trick to have your 4/4 beat their 5/5 and survive and stuff like that. So I think Golem's Bite is a little better, even though it doesn't tempt the ring immediately. You have to spend a bunch of mana to do that part. I think the front part being instant speed, -2/-2, just a little better. Take another Golem's Bite. Bitter Downfall is another great removal spell. 4-mana instant, destroy any creature. Its controller loses 2 life, so it gets extra damage in as well. If you're hitting something that's already been dealt damage, you can spend this for only 1, but you don't really want to do that. Not a massive fan of Isildur's Fateful Strike, but it is a cool card. I just don't think this is good enough to make up for the fact that it's a legendary instant. Legendary instant means you have to control a legendary creature to cast it, which isn't the biggest hoop to jump through in this format, but you have to have legendaries in your deck or a good amount of ways to have the Ring tempt you to make your creatures become legendaries. And what you get for that is that you make your opponent exile some cards from their hand if they have more than 4, but by the time you're casting a 4-mana removal spell in draft, most of the time your opponent has 4 cards in their hand maximum. Like, that's if they still have a lot in their hand at that point in the game. So I don't think that card's actually that good. I think Bitter Downfall is generally just better because it's you jump through 0 hoops to cast this. You don't need anything specific on board, which is pretty important. This could be an okay Fiery Inscription deck or an okay Mirkwood Bats deck, but Mirkwood Bats has played a lot worse than I had hoped it would. So I've already fallen pretty low on the card, and I have a lot of 4-mana stuff. I might take Fiery Inscription. We have a really big instant sorcery count. We have 5 creatures right now. Yeah, Fiery Inscription could be good. Deal 2 to our opponent whenever we play an instant or sorcery. So everything we have that amasses, at least a lot of them are going to be instants and sorceries. So those up our creature count and our instant and sorcery count at the same time. I like Mortar Muster a lot. I think this is a better 2-mana card for this deck than Rally at the Hornburg is. We care a lot about getting that Orc Army going, making sure it's pretty big. Love these land cyclers. These have played really well. The Oliphant and the Troll of Khazad-dûm. They're just like big game-ending creatures if you make it to 6 mana and you top deck one of these. And if you don't, if you draw it in your opening hand, you just cycle it away and get your land. I like those a lot, but I am still going to go with Mortar Muster because I think it's very good for this deck, and I'm going to go for another one. Again, I have a lot of 4-drops, and I haven't found Mirkwood Bats to be super impressive. unfortunately. Breaking of the Fellowship is a fine removal spell. Cast into the Fire is also okay, but pretty situational. And with Ambush is a trick. I'll take the Breaking of the Fellowship. Not super excited about any of those cards. I am pretty excited about Swarming of Moria. I don't have a lot of 3-mana cards right now. This is another creature that counts as a sorcery for Fiery Inscription. It's another way to amass, and we get that nice mana ramp from the treasure. Big fan of picking up a Swarming of Moria there. And our deck looks really nice for an improvised club. I've played one Goblin Fire Leaper before, and it was in a red-green deck, but I really didn't like it. I felt it was pretty hard to find the time to dump a bunch of mana into the fire-breathing ability, so it felt like it mostly played as a 2-mana 1/1 more than anything, so I'm going to take Improvised Club. That might be extra low on that Goblin, though. That might be better in the red-black archetype. I don't think I'm playing either of these because I have too many 4-mana cards already. I will play a 2-mana 2/2 Goblin, that's fine. I'll play that over this random combat trick. Let's go ahead and scooch our non-creature cards outside of our mana curve so we can see what curve of creatures we have. We basically have a whole deck. I've got 22 cards already. So if I played 18 lands, this would be a whole deck right now. And your average limited deck plays 17 lands. So boom, whole deck. I don't think I'm playing fires though. Don't think this is a great Desperate Rescue deck either, because a lot of our creatures are not even creatures. So we'll have instants and sorceries in grave and not be able to pick anything up with that. I think I'm going to cut that for now. And I might try to be off of the Fiery Inscription plan. We'll see. I mean, 15 instants and sorceries. That's probably enough for Inscription. But it depends on how things shake up through the third pack. All right, we have a full, entire, completely playable, super solid deck right now. But we're on to pack 3, pick 1, where we can make the deck even better. Let's go ahead and grab a Troll of Khazad-dûm for a big finisher. We don't have any of those yet. And this is a very nice flexible one, turning into a land if we don't need it. These other cards are all filler, and I've got a lot of 4-mana stuff already. Gandalf's Sanction, super strong, very good card for a deck with almost all instants and sorceries, which would be fun to do, but I've already done that archetype once before. If you want to check that out, that is, what, draft number 4 of the early access? Maybe draft number 3? I don't remember, but the artwork, the picture in the thumbnail should be some kind of blue-red nonsense. That deck was sweet. Definitely check it out. But I have done the Gandalf Sanction thing, and I'm trying to do as much or as many different things as I can in the early access event, so I'm going to not do that here. Take another Swarming of Moria over an Orcish Medicine or Mirkwood Bats, which I think are both solid cards for this deck. But I think Swarming of Moria is likely to just be a little better. Again, the more consistently I can amass 2 on turn 3, the better that a turn 4 foray of Orcs is going to be. Definitely going to take Claim the Precious. I don't have a ton of excellent removal. I've got a few. Golem's Bite's pretty good. Bitter Downfall's great. That's it, though. Improvised Club isn't great. Claim the Precious is. This card is phenomenal. Very unconditional. Kills anything you want it to. I could take another Troll of Khazad-dûm, which is fine, or an Ugluk. The only issue I have with Ugluk is that it's 4 mana, and I have great 4 mana cards. I think I'm still going to take it. It's a fun Signpost uncommon. It's real big when your goblins and orcs die. Kind of all it does, though. It's just a 4 mana big creature. So it's not actually super exciting. Still going to take it, though. Pretty good with all these rallies at the Hornburg. Or I'll have 1/1 humans dying everywhere to give it +1/+1 counters. Aragorn the Uniter. Well, not playing green, white, or blue, so that'd be a bit difficult. Cool card, though. Could take an Oliphant or a Troll, but I've already got 1 Troll, so take my 1 Oliphant. Seems fine. I don't have any equipment for this card, so this actually doesn't do anything. Unless I steal an opponent's equipment, which is cute. Probably not going to happen, though. Let's grab the pretty sweet Sacrifice Outlet. For all these rallies at the Hornburg and the 1/1 Lancers and stuff, maybe. make our opponent keep losing a life, and if I ever have the Ring Tempt us and we get to turn one of our little 1/1 humans into a legendary card, then we get to sack it, make our opponent lose a life, and amass 2, which is really good. You can amass 2 in the middle of combat with this if you have a legendary, which is really nice. Some opponents will not see that coming early in the format. I really like the Mouth of Sauron. I'm very sad to see it going pick 8, but there are 10 2-color pairs in Magic and only 8 drafters at every draft table. So this is going to happen sometimes, but I wish somebody were in the super sweet blue-black Amass deck where that card's incredible. The one time I've drafted blue-black in this format so far, I have not gotten to play that. Just didn't show up in our draft pod. Four copies of Rally at the Hornburg, if we need them. Don't think we do. We need a couple of them to fill out our 2-mana stuff. I'm not going to play a Morgul Knife Wound because I have much better removal. Double Golem's Bite, Claim the Precious, Bitter Downfall. All that stuff is great. Double Foray of Orcs works too. Alright, we've got 31 cards here. We're going to need to do some deck building. 48 cards right now, so I would like to cut 8 of these cards. I think I can cut a land with 3 land cyclers. I'm going to cut one of these and then cut one of each land, and we can just land cycle those. Basically, you can think of it like I'm cutting a swamp and a mountain for a black tap land and a red tap land. Because essentially I'm going to have to tap one of my land to get the mana. This is like a black tap land, this is like a red tap land, except the additional ability on those lands that come into play tapped is that for 6 mana, I can channel them to make a 6/4 trample, or 6 mana channel this to make a 6/5 swamp cycler, which I think is pretty good. I think I'm happy to do that and go 15 lands here. You know, I think in the interest of doing things a little differently, I'm going to get a little bit off of the instant and sorcery train here, because I already did that hardcore with my blue-red deck. So let's just get more straight up on Amass here. Cut the instant and sorcery focused cards like Flamesmith and the Ring's Inscription. And then I still need to cut 3 more cards. Gimli's Fury is still a really random combat trick in this deck. I'm not super pumped about that. 4 copies of Rally at the Hornburg is a bit much. I've got 2 Mordor Musters and a Battle-Scarred Goblin for 3 2-mana creatures. 4 rallies makes it 7. I'm going to cut 1 of these. I'll still have 3 maybe, because that makes my Improvised Club a lot better. Although I've got Swarming Memorias to make treasures to go with the club too. But I guess I've got a lot of 4-mana stuff. I can cut like 1 Torment of Golem. That seems fair. Split the difference there. Keep... You know what? No. We've got double Foray of Orcs. We have really good army stuff. I'm actually going to go a little bit low on 1 and 2 mana cards and cut a Rally at the Hornburg to keep another Amass card. We'll keep the 2nd Torment of Golem. And then I will check my black and red sources, make sure the mana looks good. With the Swamp Cycler, Mountain Cycler, I'm basically 8 black sources, 9 red sources here. And we have exactly even black and red cards. So what do we have more cheap cards of? Golem's Bite I can play later. I have more cheap red cards, but in black I'm going to need double black for Claim the Precious, and that's a pretty important card to have the mana up for. That's a really hard choice. I'd ideally like to just be on an even split, but I'm at an odd number of lands, so I can't do that. Be nice to have more red sources than black, just so I know I can always drop my 1-drops nice and easy, but it'd be nice to have more black sources than red so that I'm never stuck off of playing Claim the Precious. I only need to draw 1 black source, or 1 red source. I guess if I don't hit double black, red also gives me access to treasure production with 2 copies of Swarming of Moria, whereas none of my black cards like help me get a red mana in different situations. So I'm going to keep the higher red than black count, since we have 2 treasure producers in red that could help hit the second black. No treasure producers in black that could help me get me to the red, and I want the red turn 1, and I don't really care about the black on turn 1. So we'll go like this. This is going to be the mana base, and this is going to be the deck. Alright, here's look at the final deck list for today, and the final deck list of the early access event. We're going to be playing a black-red orcs deck. We're going to be trying to amass as big of an army as possible, as quickly as possible, and using it to blow away our opponent's blockers and beat them down for a ton of damage super quickly, super aggressively. So we've got double Mordor Muster, double Swarming of Moria, double Dunlin Kerbane for cheap amass cards, then the double Foray of Orcs as the big finishers. We've also got a couple Torment of Golems for more amass that also rips our opponent's cards from their hand. We've got an Uglook to double up the +1/+1 counters on our amassing. Well, just add 1 to all of our amassing, but that's going to double all of the amass 1s, and it's going to make amass 2s, amass 3s, which is really good. We've got tons of cheap removal to keep the path clear, like Golem's Bite, Claim the Precious, Bitter Downfall, Improvised Club, and Breaking of the Fellowship. A bunch of great stuff there. And some of the big, beefy land cyclers. So we have some big finishers that make sure we keep hitting our lands throughout the game as well. Pretty solid looking deck overall, just trying to make some beefy orcs, keep the path clear, and hit our opponent with giant armies. So, super solid looking deck, very excited to see how it does. We head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. Don't love the lack of a swamp. We have the Lancer. I don't have anything to sacrifice for club, and Oliphant is a 6-mana card, and I don't even want to mountain cycle because I don't want a 4th mountain. I think I'm going to mulligan this. I think this is awkward enough to get rid of. This is much better. I'm going to get rid of the 4-mana card in case I miss on some land drops here. Let's drop Rohirrim Lancer and see how things go from there. We have hit land number 3. We're going to poke in for 3 damage on turn 2, which feels great. They're down to 17. Our Worm Tongue can throw some damage at our opponent's face. Well, I have hit all lands here. Could be an issue soon. We could flood out. I think it's actually better to get rid of their Mana Dork than it is to play Worm Tongue right now. So they can't play a 4-drop on me. They can't play 2 2-mana spells next turn. So they just play another Pathfinder and a land for Wizard's Rockets, which is going to be nice fixing. Alright, perfect mana to play Lancer and Worm Tongue, so I guess we'll do that here. Put them down to 11. Play a Lancer, play a Worm Tongue. Nice and aggressive here. There is a 4/5 patrol, so they can block one of our 1/1s now, but they take the rest of the damage. Top deck a land, that is not useful to me. I guess I could just have 3 unblockable creatures. Straight up. Making one of these 1/1s my Ring Bearer. And I could even sacrifice that, because it'll be a legendary now. And that'll give me a 2/2 army. That's really sweet. I actually probably should have made a Lancer my Ring Bearer. That way when I sacrifice it, I tempt the ring again, or the ring tempts me again, and then I can move it to the next Lancer, then I can do that, and I can keep amassing over time. Could be worth it. I'm going to keep this land in case I get to the ring level 2, if they kill one of my Lancers or something. But yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this legendary 1/1 Ring Bearer. Get a 2/2 Orc Army and make them lose a life. Well, maybe not immediately. A sack a creature and they get a food token. That's really good at recovering here. So sack my 1/1. Can hit them for 3, but now they have a food token. A 2/2 army doesn't actually really do anything against a 4/5 and a 4/4, which is kind of cool. I think I should just keep this as Ring Bearer. No, land number 5. No, land number 6. Not super interested in that. They can kill one of my Lancers, but then the ring's level 2, which is nice. Then since the Lancer's gonna die anyway, I guess I might as well fling that. It's not gonna kill anything when it dies. Alright, the ring's level 2. We can draw a card and discard a card every time we attack with our super hard to block 1/1. I guess if they hold this Pathfinder up, they could trade that into our human soldier, so maybe putting it onto the other Lancer would have been better, because then they just can't block it even with their 1/1. Frodo Sauron's Bane, yeah. I guess even if I gave it to the Lancer, they could double block with Pathfinder and Frodo now. This is way too much mana. Well, I think it's pretty over. They grab double black off the Entish Restoration so that they can level up the Frodo all the way if they want to over time. Actually, no, I think they grabbed a white and a black. I'm not certain. To be honest, I kind of dozed off when I drew another land because that kind of just ended it here. What kind of trick do they have on board? They don't have any onboard tricks. Oh yeah, they do. They have the Pathfinder. +3/+3 trample. Alright, so we can't actually block anything well. They're basically at 8 because of their food token, so it's not like we're gonna cheese out a victory with the Worm Tongue. They've still got 2 mana up for the food. Still feels like the best bet. Get a tiny bit of damage in and see what we draw. Two mana, 2/2. Too little, too late. That is gonna be game. We'll start off 0-1 as we head into game 2. Here we are for game 2 on the play, and this is a beautiful curve. Lancer into Mordor Muster into Dunland Crebain. Means we're going to be sending in a 3/3 army on turn 3. It's going to immediately be attacking, since we get the Summoning Sickness out of the way turn 2. Beautiful stuff. Ooh, another Crebain? This is going to be so much damage so quick. This is a curve out. Our opponent is on red and white. Let's see if they have the 2 mana 3 damage burn spell. I cross my fingers, hope they don't. They do not. They are just going to take 4 damage on turn 3. Gimli's Axe with no creatures on board. Things are going really well for us. I'm going to cycle this Oliphant. So I can play Ugluk next turn, and for now I can still play Microbane. If for 7, they're down to 8 life. And it is only their turn 4. Mary Esquire of Rohan. Haste. First strike as long as it's equipped. Attack with it in another legendary, they draw a card. Well, I don't have the second black to just kill them immediately with Claim to Precious. I also don't have any way to make my army bigger, so I can't attack into a 5/2 menace first strike. I can send in for 3 damage at least. But yeah, the army's not going to do anything. Alright. So drop a Lancer, drop an Ugluk. Go for the kill next turn. Erkenbrand, very good on the aggressive, but they're pretty far on the defensive here, so I'm not super worried about it. Ranger's Firebrand to kill a Kerbane. Oh, Golem's Bite? Golem's Bite just wins. We just kill that now and attack all. Phenomenal draw. Because otherwise they could first strike away one and then chump the other and just take 3, go to 2. But that was a beautiful draw step for us. We're going to be 1-1 now. Very quick victory for game number 2. Oh no. Alright, well, that is an unfortunate way to end it, but that is the end of the Lord of the Rings Early Access Premier Draft queues. Did not know exactly when they were going to end here. That's super unfortunate. It is midnight for me now, so I think this is going to have to do it for our final draft. We don't even get to look at the deck. The Premier Draft event just completely left. I think our deck was pretty good. I think we had a rough draw in our first game. I guess we'll never know, being 1-1, but I think we could have had a solid run with that one. 4-3, 5-3 on average. Chance to hit a 7-win run. Chance to get a few more rough openers. Get some more mulligans, like we had game 1. And fall below that, but I think that deck was pretty fun. I think that the archetype is sweet, and as we saw from game 2, it can certainly pop off, but I guess that's going to do it. I do not have the time to record a full extra draft after this, as it is midnight for me now, so. On the bright side, on the day of this video's release, it is the launch of The Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth on Arena. So if you want to draft yourself, now is the time to do it. All you got to do is boot open Arena. But that's going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching. Again, I'd like to apologize for cutting off mid-draft here, but it is what it is. A man's gotta sleep, so. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.